Hello kiddos, this is ClipState and today I will be reviewing Project IGI. It is a retro FPS and yet another game from my childhood I am comparing to Dark Souls. Thankfully, it's the kind of game I'm good at, or so I should be. Perhaps the first video game I ever played. In the Loop Studios Project IGI I'm going in as a brutal budget shooter from the year 2000. An early entry into the tactical shooter genre, IGI tried to put stealth and gunplay together when just 1 year later, the legendary Ghost Recon was released and surpassed IGI in almost every aspect, except maybe for actually seeing the gun. Gameplay. Now, despite what it looks like, I'm actually a half-decent FPS player, and this game would be much easier if I could, run it above 30 FPS. I know it's a game from almost 20 years ago, but it frequently fluctuates from 10 to 30 FPS on my 1070 Ti. I mean, at least give me a fucking stable 30. I'd hit my fucking targets if my FPS didn't spaz out as much as the AI does. And the AI is fucking terrible. Sometimes they can run around in front of you for what seems like forever and do absolutely fuck all. The rest of the time, they laser you down from across the fucking level. And every time I try to open the graphics tab in the menu, the game crashes. But maybe that's due to the pirated version I'm running, or maybe the lack of dev support. Regardless, and now for the real point of this comparison. The game has no checkpoint or mid-level save system, so if you die, you restart the entire level. And the levels can be quite long too, depending on your playstyle and knowledge. You're given a map and objectives. The map displays enemy locations, which is a pleasure most modern games don't provide, and it would be useful too if it weren't so damn finicky to use. The controls feel like a poor console port despite it releasing only for Windows, and like most games of the time, there's no ADS, bar for snipers. The only method of healing is to find medipacks, which rarely even grace a level with their presence, and I think only 3 or 4 of them have them. And for 10 years, I've used them one click at a time, when you're supposed to hold left click. And even then, healing takes fucking ages. Though this does make exploration somewhat worthwhile. You often find useful weapons by looking around the level. Either that, or an enemy hiding right behind the door. 4 damage is ridiculous and could ruin your run absolutely fucking instantly. There are alarm buttons placed around maps that seemingly only allow for the alarm to be triggered, not shut off. That was confusing and useless. There's a decent variety of weapons, and ammo is limited but not scarce. Ammo management is perhaps one of the most balanced aspects of the game. I honestly believe if you put the smoothness of Counter-Strike's aiming into this game, it'd be easy, but no, it decides that 12 FPS is the way to go. Enemies jump scare me and my crosshair overshoots them by a country mile. The cutscenes are corny but feel semi-intentional. Movement and jumping is bad but not terrible. There's a noticeable input lag and lack of control when jumping. Mission objectives are unclear despite being labeled on your map. The stealth element of the game is absolutely fucking non-existent. You're engaged into a firefight if there are many enemies around, regardless of silenced weapons. But at the same time, the AI can just as easily ignore you. There's no rating or score that deters you from going for full guns out blazing rush. And that drains your limited health rather fast. So often, you can get shot from absolutely fucking nowhere or just randomly blown up. Just to realize a chopper half the map away has sniped you, or maybe a tank was right behind you all along. Enemies deviously stagger when shot, making you think they're about to fall and die, but oh no, they were just catching their breath before destroying your entire HP bar. It sucks because one of the death animations starts off just like the stagger animations. The Dragunov sniper is probably the best gun in the game simply because you can pick off enemies before infiltrating. This is balanced by a low ammo count. If you try to rush a level, you get punished hard. So the only way to win is to go through it slow. And that makes dying all the more stressful. All that time for nothing. Though, I can personally say this makes victory all the more sweeter. Graphics. The weapon models are good, and animations are well done. Reloading and lockpicking looks smooth and ahead of its time. If only had better support for high refresh rates. Sound, yeah. A highly atmospheric and moody soundtrack makes you really feel like a stealth agent. Menu music is great and tactical. Gunfire is good, but enemies sound bland and repetitive. They have absolutely no personality, or the same to me. Overall, it taught my childhood self how to rage far too early on, and made me an FPS addict. Terrible computer performance holds it back from being an enjoyable shooter, but if you hate yourself, give it a go. This was a terrible introduction to FPS games for me. I should have started with Half-Life. Still, I must have spent hundreds of hours playing this during my childhood. 6 out of 10 would give it points for scarring my heart again. Also, it has a sequel, which improves a lot of mechanics, and a third one is somehow on the way. I am semi looking forward to that one.